What's going on? Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports, and today I got the top 5 NFL teams that could trade for Pittsburgh Steelers star wide receiver Antonio Brown. But remember, today's show is brought to you by our good friends and sponsor, BetDSI, the world's #1 sports book. So, are the Pittsburgh Steelers done with Antonio Brown? Now, the biggest obstacle in a potential Brown trade is the $21 million in dead cap space the Steelers will face if they move the all-pro wide receiver in any kind of deal. It doesn't matter how they handle it. If Brown is dealt, the Steelers use somewhere between 8 and 10% of their cap space on a star receiver playing for somebody else. According to a report from Chris Mortensen of ESPN, that doesn't matter, and the Steelers are willing to move Brown anyway. When asked about the situation on Sunday morning, Mortensen said the Steelers will move him in a trade. Now, I don't know if that's 100% going to happen, but that's just my personal opinion. Mortensen also explained the Steelers are willing to make a move and take the hit with Brown because of 2 things. The $14 million salary credit coming from Le'Veon Bell, assuming they don't use the transition tag on him, and the restructuring of Big Ben's contract. So can Antonio Brown trade actually happen? Yeah, it literally can. Committing $21 million to a player not on the roster is a hefty price, but the Steelers are financially capable of making a deal go through. If they can get multiple draft picks for Brown, I'm thinking at least 2 first-rounders, the Steelers may go ahead and take the huge financial hit. Now, as you can see up there, I mean, he's got 3 years left of a 4-year, $68 million contract, and business is always booming for AB. He's one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL, and this past season was no different. I mean, he had a career-high 15 touchdowns, 12.5 yards per catch, 1,297 yards, which is kind of funny to consider. That's one of his lowest marks over the last 5 seasons, and 104 catches. I mean, we're looking at 6 straight years of over 1,250 yards and over 8 touchdowns. Like, AB is no doubt one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and you look at his career, like, he has absolutely lived up to, I think, his draft capital. You can definitely say that, right? So 837 catches, 13.4 yards per reception, and then 74 touchdowns. Antonio Brown may be the best wide receiver in the NFL. The #1 sports book is BetDSI, and if you want to play, go to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. If you put down $50, you're going to get $60 for free. You're going to put down $100, get $120 for free. Be a big baller like AB, put down $500 and get $600 for free. BetDSI, they hooked up Chat Sports with the best promo code on the internet, so go ahead and use it. Now I'm going to get into my top 5 teams for Antonio Brown, and number 5 on the list, the Detroit Lions. And Detroit needs to make a splash to punch up its offense. I mean, luring Brown to the NFC would certainly qualify. A Brown, Golladay, Marvin Jones trio would give Stafford plenty of field stretching options and create some extra breathing room for Kerryon Johnson, who, in my opinion, looked like a true running back 1 at the end of his rookie season. Pairing AB with Matthew Stafford could also maybe give the Lions just some sort of mojo, and Stafford hasn't had a stud wide receiver since Megatron, and I would love the debate who's a better wide receiver, Calvin Johnson or Antonio Brown in their prime, because it would be interesting. But when you're looking at the Lions cap space, compared to the other 5 teams that you're going to see on this list, they have the least amount at $30.2 million. So what would the Detroit Lions have to do in order to go out and get Antonio Brown? So I flirted with some different trade proposals here, and this is the one that I came up with. The Steelers are going to receive a first-round pick in 2019, which is right now the 8th overall pick, a third-round pick in 2019, and then a first-round pick in 2020, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who's a linebacker. And as you can see, the Lions are going to receive Antonio Brown. Now, the Steelers need a linebacker. They desperately need a linebacker since Ryan Shazier went down with the injury, and this is 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a linebacker. It's a lot, but again, it's Antonio Brown, and the Steelers are going to eat a lot of money, which means teams are going to have to give up a lot of money to have AB on their team. If Antonio Brown goes to the Detroit Lions, what is that wide receiver depth chart going to look like? It's kind of pretty, in my opinion. I mean, you could argue Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, and Antonio Brown is one of the best 3 wide receiver trios in the entire league. Now, they're always going to be slowed down by Matthew Stafford, but at the end of the day, Antonio Brown, Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, hey, I think that's pretty sexy, but I still don't even know if they're the 3rd best team in that division. I would like to believe that they could be better than 6-10 like they were this past year, but still considering that, Matthew Stafford's going to weigh them down. So we're talking about Antonio Brown, and I got a question for you. Is Antonio Brown the best wide receiver in the NFL? If you're watching on Facebook, give me a heart for yes or a laughing face for no. If you're watching on YouTube, comment yes or no? Is Antonio Brown the best wide receiver in the NFL? Heading on in now to the fourth team on my list. It's the New York Jets, and the Jets need an infusion of talent, that's for sure. And Brown and Sam Darnold would be one heck of a pairing. This entire offseason, when they were doing their coaching hiring, when the Jets were looking for their hiring, they just hired Adam Gase. They're looking for somebody who could grow Sam Darnold. Now, I think Antonio Brown would definitely be able to grow Sam Darnold, and that would be one heck of a pairing. And if I was a young quarterback like Sam, I'd be like, hey, Jets, go out and give me AB. That'd be pretty dope. Now, they do have the second most cap space entering, as it stands right now, with $98.1 million. So they're definitely going to be able to pay AB what he wants. But now, what are the Jets going to have to give up in order to get Antonio Brown? As you can see here, they're going to have to give up a first-round pick, which is the 6th overall pick right now, and then 2020 first-round pick, and then a third-round pick in 2020. And when you're looking at AB, I like the idea of AB being able to join the New York Jets. I mean, they have a talented wide receiver in Robbie Anderson. If he can keep his head on straight, he can definitely stretch the field. And then I just don't know if you're going to be able to double-team Brown. With Robbie Anderson's speed, it's just you're going to maybe try to bracket cover him, but you're not going to be able to stop him. You can really only contain Antonio Brown. And then Quincy Enunwa, he did just sign another deal. I would say he's more of a wide receiver, tight end, like flex in between there, but still, those would be three solid options for Sam Darnold. And if you're trying to grow him, hey, three wide receivers there, that's a pretty good route to do it. My next team on my list is the Oakland Raiders, coming in here at number 3, and they had a rough season, right? And they only finished 4-12, and many would argue they might be the worst team in the NFL. But with 5 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts and the 5th most cap space in the NFL, the Raiders are well-equipped as any team to take on Brown. Plus, Derek Carr, who is in the midst of a 5-year, $125 million deal, badly needs weapons. And when I look at the Oakland Raiders, and they've had a lot going on this season. I mean, they traded away Amari Cooper, Martavis Bryant's done, and right now they're staring at Jordy Nelson and Marcel Aitman, I think, as their top 2 options. And sure, you could argue their best receiving options, actually their tight end, Jared Cook, who led the team with 896 receiving yards. But the Raiders need a big splash. They have a lot going. Heck, they don't even know where they're going to play in 2019. But I would love to see Antonio Brown in Las Vegas in 2020. Now that, I can already hear, that's going to be a casino that's going to be ready to be booming. Now, if the Oakland Raiders wanted to go out and get AB, now what necessarily are they going to have to give up in order to get him? Because, again, they have a lot of picks, but they've also done a lot of moving around. So I think a first-round pick in 2019, which would be their 24th pick right now, and then a first-round pick, which they got from the Dallas Cowboys in the Amari Cooper trade, and then a third-round pick in 2020, which was also involved in the Khalil Mack trade. And the first-round pick that you see up there originally was also in the Khalil Mack trade. So the Raiders have plenty of draft picks, and why not go out and get AB, who could definitely help Derek Carr, because if Derek Carr isn't the franchise, or if you think he's the franchise, there's going to be one way to find out. I think pairing him with Antonio Brown would be a great way to do it. This is the Raiders wide receiver depth chart right now with Antonio Brown. It's old, right? So Jordy Nelson's going to be 34. Antonio Brown's going to be 31 in July. But I like a young receiver in Marcel Aitman who stepped up big once he became a starter in Week 11 for the Oakland Raiders. I think Seth Roberts will probably end up getting cut. And at the end of the day, the Raiders need wide receiver help. And there's been plenty of rumors that they could go out and draft one in round 1. I don't know if I necessarily like that. I think the Raiders should stick to defense. But if you're going to give up those picks because you want a wide receiver, I think Antonio Brown is a great way to do it. So there's this guy in Oakland, or for the Raiders, named John Gruden, and some people say he may be tough to deal with. And there's a reason why on my show, The Raiders Report, I do Chucky heads, because the guy gets angry. So we know Antonio Brown's a bit of a diva. Most wide receivers in the NFL are. Would Antonio Brown get along with John Gruden? I want you to type A for yes or type B for no. And if you want to know what I think, DM me on Twitter, at MitchellRenz365. Give a shout out to today's sponsor, BetDSI, the internet's and the world's #1 sports book. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. If you like betting on NFL, college football, MLB, literally anything, there's only one place to do it. It's at BetDSI, chatsports.com/bet. And again, promo code LIVE120. Promo code LIVE120. Going to go ahead now and get into my top 2 teams for Antonio Brown, and I'm going to get this one going with the Indianapolis Colts. And this may be my most entertaining option, right? So The rest of the NFL, I think, would be pretty ticked off at the Pittsburgh Steelers if they ended up trading Brown to the Colts. They are growing into a monster, and I think with Antonio Brown, you can consider the Colts a legitimate Super Bowl option. Heck, they may even win the Super Bowl this year since they are the only team on this list still in the playoffs. With the most cap room in the NFL at $122.3 million, they have money to spend. There's no doubt about that. And I think the craziest idea, imagine Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown both going to the Colts and both playing with Andrew Luck. That puts a smile on my face, and for anybody who plays fantasy football, that puts a smile on many people's face. So if the Colts want to go out, oh man, voice creak. If the Colts want to go out and get Antonio Brown, what are they going to have to give up? They have some picks here, so I think they're going to give up a first-round pick in 2019, which is still TBD, and then a first-round pick in 2020, and then a third-round pick in 2020. I think with a lot of those picks, the Colts right now, I think out of all these trade proposals, maybe the least intriguing for the Steelers, and also I don't know if the Steelers really want to give another AFC team Antonio Brown. That one would be a little bit tough. But this is what the Steelers, I believe, would receive, and this is what the Colts would receive for Antonio Brown. Now you're looking at this depth chart. I think Ryan Grant has been pretty good for the Colts, and I think Dontrell Inman has stepped up really, really well for the Indianapolis Colts, especially in the playoffs. I mean, I believe it's 3 straight weeks with the touchdown. He's come up clutch for Andrew Luck. And then you got T.Y. Hilton, who's been Luck's really go-to option. And yes, Eric Ebron has been great. He's got 15 receiving touchdowns. But Antonio Brown, T.Y. Hilton, and Eric Ebron, and a potentially Le'Veon Bell offense for Andrew Luck, wow. That could be a Super Bowl winning team if you ask me. All right, now I'm going to get into my last team here, my top team for Antonio Brown, and it's the San Francisco 49ers. I think it's funny when NFL players recruit other NFL players, and I don't know if you've been watching Twitter or on social media, but Brown and 49ers stud tight end George Kittle, they've kind of been flirting with each other on social media. Now, I don't know if George Kittle would swipe right on AB, but I personally will. The 49ers traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, and they tried to trade for Khalil Mack in the offseason. So, they were trying to land pieces. They're trying to get big players around Jimmy G, and heck, this could be a swing for the fences kind of move. But if Jimmy Garoppolo gets a star wide receiver and the greatest wide receiver of all time, Jerry Rice, has already come out and said that the 49ers should go out and get AB. If there's one guy I'm going to listen to if I'm the 49ers, it's probably Jerry Rice. So this is the reason why he's number one, the 49ers number one on my list for AB. They're 4-12. But what exactly are they going to have to give up to get him? Because they're going to have to give up a lot, just like all these other ones. And they could give up their first-round pick in 2019, a second-round pick, and then a third-round pick in 2019, and a first-round pick in 2020. And I think if the 49ers are looking at that first-round pick in 2020, they're like, well, if we trade for AB, we have a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo. If we can get Jerick McKinnon back, our defense is healthy, that 2020 pick is probably going to be, probably in the bottom. I would imagine if the 49ers make this move, they're like, we're going to be a playoff-caliber team, and I may even flirt the idea that they would be as well. So if Brown does go to the 49ers, this is what the wide receiver depth chart is going to end up looking like for the 49ers. You have Marquise Goodwin, who is an absolute field stretcher, the fourth fastest 40-yard time ever at the NFL Combine at 4.27. So, again, can you double-team AB? Sure, but you're going to get exposed, I think, by Goodwin over the top. Pierre Garçon has showed his age a little bit, but he is still on contract until 2020 for the 49ers. But AB, a young receiver in Pettis, who I like, Goodwin and Garçon, that's a pretty good dynamic for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, if you're just joining us and you don't know who my top 5 teams for Antonio Brown are, guess what? I'm going to hook you up. Detroit Lions coming in here at number 5. Then the New York Jets are coming in at 4. The Oakland Raiders at 3. The Indianapolis Colts at 2. And then the San Francisco 49ers coming in at 1. These are my top 5 teams to trade for star wide receiver Antonio Brown. So I got a question for you, because literally this is what this entire show is about. Where is Antonio Brown going to play in 2019? I want you to comment below. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, heck, anywhere that you're watching this video, I want you to figure out a way to comment where Antonio Brown's going to play in 2019. And if you want to know what I think, DM me on Twitter, Instagram, literally anywhere, at MitchellRenz365. If you like what I'm wearing, it's because I'm decked out in Mizzen and Maine, and I want to give a shout out to them. www.comfortable.af is the website. These shirts are unbelievably comfortable. They're made in America. I promise you, it's the best damn dress shirt you will ever buy. And also, I'm telling you right now, they got sweat wicking technology. You can wear these to the gym. You can wear these when you go to work. I sleep in these bad boys, and my boss has no idea when I'm doing it. I'll be back with more NFL rumors later on in the week. So until then, I'll see you.